Okay, what we're going to go over here is a collapsing margins problem. So here's the problem. We have a header right here that's contained within a section right here. This section has zero padding, and that's it. I believe the margin, but the margin is superfluous. But this section has zero padding. Within the section, there's a header, and this header has a margin top of 0. So when we increase this, notice that when we're increasing the margin top of the header, it's like it's increasing the height of the previous element, but it's not really. It's actually increasing the margin, but the container, the section, is doing what's called a border collapse, or correction, a margin collapse. So it doesn't matter how high we go up into this percentage, it's always going to have a margin, but the actual containing box, which is a section, is going to collapse down onto the header. This is actually something that I've had a problem with for years. And one way to fix it is to put a padding on the inside of the section. So if I do 40 px here, you notice there's, let's see, of course, then there's a padding. So if I wanted to, say, get 60 or 60 pixels of margin of top, then I have to put a padding. Now I don't like paddings because paddings typically not really for north and south, but for east and west, they oftentimes break in older browsers with the box model layout. And it's just a CSS rule I attempt to avoid. We'd rather have this 60 pixels be a margin top than a padding top for the containing element. So here's what's interesting. There's a default margin and padding on HTML tags on all browsers by default. Now, what's interesting is we're running into a common problem called collapsing margins. Basically, whenever vertical margins touch, even when one element is inside of another element, the margins collapse. In this case, your margin property on the inner div is collapsing into the margin bottom. To fix this, add a little padding or border around the containing element. Again, to fix this, add a little padding or a border around the containing element. And then I got to this part. This is the most interesting from on Stack Overflow, correction. You literally have to add 1 pixel of padding to the outer container and it will magically start working. CSS is so arbitrary, I'm not even sure what they specified in their specification. So let's find out if that's truthful. So you mean to tell me that I can have the padding, we can set our padding top, let's set that to 0, right? Okay, and say I go to my header, and I increase the margin of my header to 20 pixels. Let's say 30. Let's say 40 for giggles. So clearly we're having a collapsed margin here at the top. If I go here and add a padding top to 1, and as they say in France, et voila, it just works. Don't know why, but it just works.